Assalamualaikum, my dear students. Today we are on the chapter number 4, mean the internal assessment. As previously we have completed the external assessment chapter. My dear students, we are moving on with the chapter number 4, mean the internal assessment. Before going to the next slide, uh, I wanna recall some of the concepts with you people. That internal assessment mean you are going to assess the internal environment of the organization. And when I'm going to say the assessment of the internal environment, it means that you are in need to assess the strengths and the weaknesses of the organization, so you can make the strategy uh, accordingly or appropriately, which is going to be suitable with the strengths and weakness of your organization. uh, you can see that we are at uh, this stage. Initially we have developed the vision and mission. Uh, then we have studied the business ethics and social responsibility, because that's going to cover the whole. And then we have studied the external audit, and now we are on to the internal audit. After this, uh, we need to understand some of the important strategies in action, and finally we are going to look at some long-term objective and how to generate the strategies. Okay. So about the internal assessment, few of the famous scientists and the philosophers, what they have said, like Albert Einstein, the very well-known scientist, he said that great spirits have always encountered violent opposition from mediocre minds. It means you need to identify the strength of your mind before you're going to respond to any kind of opposition. Okay. Furthermore, Sun Tzu, he said that weak leadership can wreck the soundest strategy. So whatever the best strategy you're going to make, if your leadership is weak, if you are internally weak, your organization is not going to have a good managerial skills, good leadership, you would not succeed at the end. My dear student, to assess the strengths and weakness, what you need to do, you need to perform the internal audit of the organization. What is the internal audit? Internal audit means you need to identify the strengths and weaknesses in management, in marketing, in finance and accounting, in production and operations, in the research and development, in management information system. Mean you need to identify that what areas you're going to have a strong as a strength, and in what areas you are going to have the weaknesses. Nature of an internal audit. What are the natures? As the basis for objectives and strategies, you need to uh, evaluate the internal strength and weakness, you need to evaluate the external opportunities and threats, and you need to make the clear statement of mission. If you are not going to have a good analysis of strength and weaknesses, mean internal analysis, you are not going to have a thorough external analysis, you are not going to have a clear statement of mission, my dear student, you would not be able to get the good objectives and strategies for your organization. Okay. So if you need to be succeeded by focusing onto the objectives and the strategies of your organization, you need to focus onto the internal analysis, you need to focus on the external analysis, and you need to develop a clear statement of mission for your organization. Here comes a point of the distinctive competency, but before I'm going to tell you about, I want to discuss some of the concepts which I have discussed earlier with you. Like I talked to you about the capabilities, I talked to you about how the capabilities are going to be converted to the competencies. What are the core competencies? And then how we can convert the core competencies into the distinctive competencies. But what this author is going to say, the firm's strengths that cannot be easily matched or imitated by the competitors are going to be called the distinctive competencies. So if I try to recall all of the other concepts, like what are the capabilities, mean what skills, what abilities your organization is going to have, and by the combination of those skills and the abilities, your organization creates some of the competencies. It means the competencies are a combination, a good combination of capabilities. And out of those competencies, some competencies are there which helps you to operate into an environment. And when you found out those core competencies, uh, you look at that what competencies out of those core competencies are going to help you in getting your competitive advantage, mean the core competencies which are unmatchable, which are unimitable. So those core competencies would become your distinctive competencies. Now, furthermore, the distinctive competencies build the competitive advantage. Uh, it helps in building the competitive advantage, involves taking advantage of the distinctive competencies. So the main focus of an organization should be to create the distinctive competency and to sustain the distinctive competency. What is the sustainability of the distinctive competency? Sustainability is about that you try to make your distinctive competency unimitable. Mean no one can imitate your distinctive competency, right? So that would be the key internal force of an organization, that that organization is not let the other competitors to match with their distinctive competencies. Now we need to look at the internal audit process, and for the internal audit process we need to gather some of the information from different departments, like from the management, marketing, finance, accounting, production, operations, research and development, management, information system. But take one thing in your notice, that you should focus that the internal audit process is going to be performed parallel to the process of external audit. It means the external audit process and internal audit process are going to be performed parallelly, equally, at the same time. Okay. So what information we need to gather um, from these departments? For example, when I talk about the management, my dear students, in management, I need to look at what processes, what procedures, what rules and regulations, what ethics, what culture is going to uh, is there in an organization. So I'm going to evaluate my process, that either my process is the best, what is the key strengths of my processes, what are the strengths of my culture, how my culture is going to operate, what are the main values and beliefs of my culture, what rules and regulation we have made, what policies we are going to have, which are going to help us in uh, making our strengths. Then we talk about the marketing. What are the strengths of the marketing campaigns? How much they are going to have impact on to the consumer minds, and how much we can penetrate through marketing activities. Uh, is it going to help us in the development of new goods and services? Then finance and accounting is going to help us in identifying the financial strengths. Mean uh, we can do this by uh, performing the ratio analysis. And then production and operations, we need to look at the operations of our organization, that how much value they're going to add into a product. So that's going to be evaluated. Research and development, new product development, new services development, the new way of doing the work, new processes. So all of these things are going to be identified. And finally, management information system, is it going to provide you the required uh, information at the right time, so you would be able to take the right decision into the organization at the right time. Furthermore, involvement in performing an internal strategic management audit provides a vehicle for understanding the nature and effects of decisions in other functional business areas of the firm. So, my dear student, when you perform the internal audit, it gives you the insight of your organization. You got to know that what is the nature of the decisions your organization's other functional areas are going to take, what are the effects of those decisions are there on your organization or on your firm, as well as uh, you got to create some tools for this audit. Okay, uh, this is not very easy to perform the internal audit of the firm. For this internal audit, you need to create multiple tools into your organization. Those tools are going to help you out in identifying the strength of your culture, the financial stability of your organization, the uh, impact of politics, the impact of your policies, uh, and rules and regulation of your organization, and many more things. So let's see on some other areas, like uh, it is given that possible aspects of an organization's culture. Uh, this tool, 15 instruments mean 15 elements are there uh, in this tool to evaluate the different aspects of your organization culture. For example, strong work ethic, arrive early, and we weight high ethical beliefs, clear code of business ethics followed, formal dress, informal dress, many casual dress days, socialize together outside of work, do not question supervisors' decision, encourage whistleblowing, be health conscious, allow substantial working from home. So what you need to do, you are going to ask these questions from the employees and they are going to give the answer from 1 to 5 Likert scale. Okay, so then you're going to get the average of these and you got to know that what are the strengths of your, how much positivity is there and in your culture. Okay, so as it is going to involve the philanthropic activities and furthermore things. So these things are going to tell about the strength of a culture. So either your culture is your strength or a weakness, you can identify it from it. If you're going to have a result less than 3, it means you are going negatively and you need to improve your culture. If you are somewhere above 4, it means you are good, and if you're between 3 and 4, it means you're on the average. Managers and employees from all areas provide the information, as if we have seen the previous questionnaire, we need to get this questionnaire filled from all the managers and employees. A team of managers then select 10 to 15 key organization strengths and weaknesses to focus on. So for the purpose of internal audit, you need to identify what are the key strengths and key weaknesses of your organization. Then you work on to those things. This would not be an open-ended question. You need to close it somewhere. As I told you previously that what information we need from the finance and accounts department, I told you that you need to perform the financial ratio analysis. So exemplifies complexity of relationship among functional areas of the business. At the end of this chapter, I'll ask you to submit me some of the financial ratios from the companies which you're going to select, you have selected in the previous week for the external factor evaluation matrix. Okay. Then here comes the approach of resource-based view approach. As previously we have seen the IO approach in the chapter number 4, and that was going to cover the assessment of the industry and assessment of the organization. So here we are going to focus on the resource-based view approach to the competitive advantage, which help us in gaining the competitive advantage. It talk about that internal resources are more important than the external resources. So we need to focus that what internal resources we can focus to get the competitive advantage. As you people know that resource-based view approach is based on four components which are VRIO, where V stand for the value, then the awareness and the imitability, and finally the organization. And we focus on to these four main areas to utilization of our resources in a better way to create the competitive advantage in the industry. In resource-based view, all the internal resources are grouped into three all-encompassing categories, which are the physical resources, human resources, and the organizational resources. First of all, if I talk about the physical resources, it includes all the plants, equipment, location, technology, raw material, machines, etc. And if I talk about the human resource, obviously you know about it that it includes all the employees, the training, experience, intelligence, knowledge, skills, abilities, and finally, if I talk about the organizational resources, it includes the firm structure, planning processes, information systems, patents, trademarks, copyrights, database, and so on. So, my dear students, these are the resources on to which the organization is going to base that they can help an organization performing the best. And despite they are going to look at the external environment and look at the competitors or look at the opportunities, they should focus onto their own strength, onto their own resources, and perform the best by utilizing these resources. So if you have no need to evaluate the external factors, but you need to perform uh, at your best by utilizing these resources. Okay, about resource-based view, there are four indicators which are going to be used. The VRIO mean V stand for variable, rare, inimitable, and organized. So look at this. First of all, we need to create the value into the organization. If an organization is not going to have a value into their products, into their services, they cannot have the competitive advantage, despite they would be competitive disadvantage. Okay, if they are going to have some value, then they need to move on. And then the rarity mean uh, they have something rare which is in their possession, and their competing firms do not possess that capability or the competency. So it is the something rare. Okay, so if you didn't have something rare, the competitive parity is there, so you are not at competitive advantage. If you are going to have the rare capabilities or competencies, you move on, and then comes the inimitability, that the rare capabilities and the values are inimitable. No one can perform the same thing as you're doing. If you are not going to have inimitability, then the competitive advantage would be the temporary. Okay, it would not be the permanent. And then if you are going to have inimitability as well, mean others are not able to copy you, not able to follow the things as you're doing, then you move on to the organized. If you are not organized, so unused competitive advantage, if you, it means you have not used your competitive advantage despite the fact that you have the competitive advantage, but you are unable to use that. And on the final point, if you move on to the organized, it means sustained competitive advantage is there. Okay, mean you have organized all of your activities, it means your competitive advantage is sustainable. My dear students, as I told you in some of the previous slide, that it is very important to have a good integration between the strategy and the culture, because the culture is the only thing which is going to make the strategy successful. Uh, you do all of your arrangements, but you are not going to align your culture according to the strategy, then you would not succeed. So in such a way, we need to look at what the organizational culture and how it is going to have the impact onto the strategy. So pattern of behavior developed by an organization as it learned to cope with its problem of external adoption and internal integration is called the culture. You know about it, that we need to learn the pattern of behaviors which organization need to follow for the communication with their external stakeholders, including their suppliers and their distributors, retailers, customers, all the external people, the government agencies. So they need to co-op that how to behave with them, how to have the interaction with those things. So it is considered valid and taught to new members as the correct way to perceive, think, and feel. So the culture is the most important thing, and what we need to do, if we are going to have a strong culture, we should taught that culture to the new members of the organization. So we are going to pursue it for the longer terms. Uh, about the organizational culture, there is a resistance to change in every employee in the organization. They don't want to change themselves. They have this very high resistance towards the change, and they may represent organization may represent the strength of the organization or the weakness of the organization. We need to find out that either this culture is going to represent the strength at the moment for the organization, or it is going to represent the weakness for the organization. These are some of the important cultural products like values, belief, rituals, myths, symbols. We're going to have heroes in the organization and legends. So all of these things, these attributes are derived from the culture of an organization. Organizational culture can inhibit strategic management, if uh, an organization miss the external changes due to strongly held beliefs, so they are going to lose something. They are not flexible and they are not going to cope with the uh, upcoming needs of the environment. So the organization need to focus onto such changes which are going to be held into the environment. And then nature tendency to hold the course even during times of strategic change. uh, I told you in the previous slide, in the external environmental assessment, that we need to carry out a routine business. Routine business means the course, even when we are going through the strategic change. Okay, so my dear students, this is the natural tendency, this is the natural thing which we need to do. So in a culture we need to plot uh, this approach, that while we are going to have some strategic change, our employees are going to hold the course, mean they are going to continue their routine working as well along with that strategic change. Now we need to look at that how these functions of management which were given by the Henry Fayol, that how these five functions are going to coordinate with different strategic management perspectives. Mean we have uh, basically three areas of strategy. That first one is the strategy formulation, second is the strategy implementation, and third is the strategy evaluation. So we need to look at that how these five functions are going to contribute into the strategy management process. So you can see that the planning function of management is going to contribute into the strategy formulation. Okay. Then when we talk about the organizing, motivating, and staffing, these three are combinedly going to have interaction with the strategy implementation, or we can say they are going to help us in the strategy implementation phase of the strategic management. And the controlling, obviously, that is going to help the third stage of strategy management. It means that is concerned with the strategy evaluation. First of all, we need to look at the planning, how it is going to have the relationship with the strategy formulation. So beginning of management process, it means we are going to start a management process from the planning, and it bridge between the present and the future, because whatever we plan, that planning is for the future. We are doing that planning by sitting in present, by analyzing the data of the present, but past and present, but uh, planning is going to focus the goals of the future. Okay, so improves likelihood of attaining desired results. So planning improve that what we need to achieve and help us to achieve our desired goals and the results. How it helps? Look at this, that planning helps to develop our mission. It helps to forecast future events and trends. It helps in establishing the objective of the organization, and it helps in choosing strategies to pursue. Okay, so these are the steps which planning is going to conduct these activities, and going to contribute something into the strategic management by such activities. Now we need to understand that what synergy is going to be created through the help of the planning. uh, can Synergy can develop through the planning, because we plan different activities jointly which are going to contribute something into the uh, development of the strategy, and for or we can say the formulation of the strategy. So it can help us a lot uh, by contributing in such a way that we are going to have a planning for the synergic effect of different activities in the organization. Secondly, synergy exists when everyone pulls together as a team that knows what it wants to achieve. As we make the strategy and we develop different teams who are going to contribute something into the achievement of such, uh, you can say, uh, vision and mission or the strategies. So, or the strategic objectives. So, those teams, because they are working together and they know what are their objectives or goals, so they create the synergy in their activities. Okay, now we are moving towards the second function of the management, which is the organizing, and we need to look at that how organizing is going to contribute in strategy implementation. As organizing helps to achieve coordinated effort, so strategy implementation needs to have the coordinated effort. So that contribution is going to be taken by the organizing function. Second one, it defines tasks and authority relationships, that what are the relationship between different tasks with the objectives, and what are the relationship between an authority and how that authority is going to contribute in achieving such tasks. So in that way, we can use different authorities to achieve the tasks for the strategy implementation purpose. Number three, it determines who does what. It defines the job of the people. It defines that what are the responsibility of different people into the achievement of such strategies. And number four, determines who report to whom. It is going to create the hierarchy of the organization. It helps uh, to identify that who is going to give the order and who is going to obey the orders. So it is going to create a hierarchy which is going to help us in achieving the strategy of the organization. Uh, Furthermore, if we talk about the organizing, breaking down tasks into the jobs mean we are going to break down different tasks among different people, and we have to make these tasks as a part of their job, and combining jobs to form the departments. And finally, we need to look at that. We are going to combine a similar kind of activities, and onto those similar kind of activities, we are going to form the departments. Okay, so we can say as accounting people, in accounts department, all the people are going to have a job related to the accounts, and in finance department, all the people are going to have the job related to the finance, and in human resource, all the people are going to have a jobs related to the human resource. So in this way, they are going to combine different jobs to form the departments. And furthermore, delegating the authority, it means which decision making powers are going to be delegated to whom. So if we are going to working onto the centralized mechanism or to the decentralized mechanism of the organization, we need to delegate the authorities. Okay, next we need to talk about the motivation, that how the motivation is going to have in the relationship with the strategic management. Like motivating is going to influence uh, the people to accomplish specific objective which have been given to them by the organization. So what we need to do, we need to motivate our employees to achieve their specific objective which are going to be related to the strategy implementation. uh, Motivation is going to have four components, which includes the leadership. Obviously the leaders are going to create the followership among the other employees, and they can motivate their followers. Then the group dynamics, if we're going to create such groups who are self-motivated and self-directed, they can achieve their task in a better way. We need to improve the communication, and finally we need to create the focus of employees towards the organizational change, and we need to make into their mind that development of an organization is going to contribute into the development of their individual careers uh, in the professional environment. Now we need to talk about the next function of the management, that is the staffing. Staffing includes two areas, the personnel management and the human resource management. My dear student, there is a one clear difference between these two terminologies, the personnel management and the human resource management. That in personnel management, people are going to be considered as a tool for the organization, and if they are of not no use for the organization, they are going to be replaced. So in human resource management, it is not going to be considered like that humans are the kind of a tool for the organization, but they are going to be considered as the very important and uh, you can say a strategic kind of resource. And if there is some deficiencies going to be found out into the employees, they are going to be trained to do their task in a well manner. So this is the main difference, and staffing is going to include, that is started from the personnel management and comes to the human resource management. So now we need to look at some other perspective of the staffing, that what activities we need to perform in the function of the staffing. So my dear students, these are some of the functions listed here, uh, which comes from the staffing function of management, as they are going to include the recruiting, interviewing, testing, selecting, orientation of new employees, the training. If there is some deficiency, you need to give the training of the employees, developing the career of your employees. That includes something more than the training. That's going to add something into their employability. Caring for, evaluating, rewarding, disciplining, promoting, transferring, demoting, and dismissing. So these are the different functions of the staffing, and I think here I have no need to discuss these activities in detail because this is not a topic now. We are just need to consider that how these activities are going to be contribute into the strategy implementation, as we need to find out some new skills for the strategy implementation. So we are going to recruit them, and during the recruitment we are going to conduct the interviews, we are going to conduct the testing, we are going to select the people, and when we are going to select the people and we are going to appoint them, then we need to give them some orientation. And if they are not going to have the skills that how to work in our organization, they have some lack of expertise, we need to give them some training and something. So in this way, what we need to do, we can use our human resource and we can use the staffing function to direct their efforts towards the strategy implementation. Now, the last function of management, controlling, which is going to have the relationship with the uh, strategy evaluation, the last phase of strategic management process. So it includes establishing performance standards, that on what criteria we need to evaluate the uh, performance of employees, or we need to evaluate that either a strategy is successfully implemented or not. So uh, number two, ensure actual operations conform to planned operations. We need to evaluate that either actual operations are in accordance to the planned operations or not. And if there is some discrepancy or deficiency, or we can say the gap is going to be found, so we need to take some corrective action to come to the planned roadmap. And again, the third is the, as I told you, that is taking the corrective action if there is some deficiency or discrepancy is going to be found out. That deficiency and discrepancy could be in the strategic achievements, or in cost, or in time, or in many other ways. So we need to find out those deficiencies and discrepancies. Furthermore, there is a four-step process for the controlling. The first one is establishing performance standard, as we have discussed in the previous slide, that we are going to uh, create the performance criteria, onto which criteria we need to evaluate the performance of the employees, or the performance of the strategic implementation team. Number two, we need to measure the individual and organization performance. Number three, we need to compare the actual measured performance with the planned performance standards. I mean, we need to compare the first and the second criteria. In first, we have set the standards, and second, we have measured the performance. So we need to check the measured performance according to the set standards. Okay, and if there is some deficiency or discrepancy, we need to take the corrective action for strategy implementation purposes. So we are going to implement the strategy successfully. Now, there is a management audit checklist. We need to look at that what management need to do. Like, does the firm use strategic management concepts? Are objectives, goals measurable, well communicated or not? Do managers at all levels plan effectively? My dear students, I think despite I give you the answer of these questions, or I'm going to explain these areas, why not you people are going to think onto these questions, and you are going to give me uh, 1 to 2 page justification for these questions, that how they are going to help the management for the audit checklist. I mean, how they are going to help to identify the performance of an organization uh, by using such tools. Here are some other management audit checklist questions, which includes, do manager delegate well? Mean their powers are going to be delegated well or not? Is the organization structure is appropriate for the strategic management or the strategy we have designed. So it is compatible, organization structure is compatible with the strategy which we have designed. Our job descriptions clear, so every employee can understand them. Our job specifications are clear. Is employee morale is high. uh, Furthermore, is employee absenteeism low? Is employee turnover low? Are the reward mechanism effective? Are the organization's control mechanisms effective? So, my dear students, you need to answer these questions. So, not the answers, you need to give the justification of these questions, that either they are going to help in identifying that organization is going to achieve something or not. So, this is your task which you need to submit me. Uh, right after 2 days. Now it is time to identify that how marketing function of the organization is going to help us in formulating, in identifying the strength and weakness of the firm, and then help in achieving the sustainable competitive advantage for the firm, as the marketing function helps the organization to identify the customer needs or wants for products and services. So what functions were you going to perform into the marketing function are basically the four functions that we define, anticipate, creating, and fulfilling the customer needs. So these are the functions of the marketing which need to be performed by different processes of the marketing, uh, which are going to contribute something into that what are the needs of the customer, how they are going to be fulfilled, and if there is some lack of needs, so marketing is there to create that need, as there was a no need initially present for the smart mobiles in the market. But when Android operating system is going to be launched, it has created the need for the customers. So now we are uh, in a position that we cannot live without the smartphone, the people who are dependent onto these devices, and finally fulfilling those needs at affordable prices and their ease of the customer. These are the different marketing functions. Customer analysis. We perform the analysis to define the needs, to anticipate the need, to create the need, and to fulfill the need. So we do the analysis that what needs exist into the market, what customer wants, at what price they want, at which location, which uh, place they want the product. Then the second function is the sales, means selling the products or services to the customer. After that, what we need to do, we need to uh, plan different products and services which are going to be launched into the future. So how we are going to uh, perform, we are going to sorry, design different products, we are going to design different services, as we have got the data or information about the needs of the customer. So according to those needs, we are going to design different products and the services. Number four, the pricing. We need to um, define different pricing strategies. Either we're going for the low cost, or we're going for the as a market leader with a unique product, then we are going to charge the highest price, or whatever. So we need to identify that, but with the pricing strategy of the organization. After that, what organization need to do, they need to identify the distribution channels into the marketing function, and finally the market research. As I told you earlier, that customer analysis is the part of the marketing research as well. Okay, so in marketing research we perform the customer analysis as well, and opportunity analysis, that is another uh, question which is going to be answered into the marketing research, that what opportunities are going to exist into the market, and how we can focus, or how we can um, target those uh, opportunities into the environment which are pertaining there. Now look at some detail of these functions, like customer analysis. What we do in the customer analysis, we perform the customer service, as we have seen that many uh, company designated people uh, we can see into the markets and they perform the customer service. Then consumer information is going to be gathered. Market positioning strategy is going to be defined, that where we need to position our product into the market. Then customer profiles are going to be identified, and finally market segmentation and strategies. My dear students, you have studied, I think, all of these uh, uh, concepts into the subject of the marketing, but here we are going to just see such details. If you are going to have any question, any query about any of the strategy or any of the function of the marketing, you can ask, but I'm not going in detail because uh, I have presumed that you have the knowledge of these functions before, because you have studied this subject already. Then selling products or services. So for the purpose, what an organization is going to do, they give the advertising, uh, they have the sales promotion activities, they perform some publicity activities, uh, they do the personal selling, they have the Salesforce management function, management systems. So they're going to enhance their sales with the help of their Salesforce, who are going to who went to the market and who are going to penetrate the sales, or they're going to penetrate into the market to enhance your sale, enhance your market share. Then what we do, we are going to uh, focus on customer relations and then the dealers relation. These are the different activities which are going to be performed into the sales department of selling the products or services. So we are going to focus on to such activities. Furthermore, when I talk about the product service planning, so we are going to perform many activities, as you can see here. What we do, we perform the test marketing. So in test marketing, we are going to test some of the product into the market by giving some giveaways, some sampling, and something. Then brand positioning, we position a brand that either it is a unique product, either it is a low cost product, or it is going to have a focus on some niche market or whatever. So devising the warranties, packaging, that is another important product service planning activity. Then product features and options are going to be considered and enhanced and are going to be focused. Then product style is going to be focused. After that, you can see that quality of the product is going to be considered into the planning phase, that what quality we need to improve and how to improve and how much we are going to spend onto the product quality. Then deleting old products and uh, offering the new products into the market and providing for customer services. So these are the activities which are going to be performed into the planning of product or services. Then the function of the distribution, it is going to involve the activities of warehousing, distribution channels, retail site location, sales territories are going to be focused, inventory levels are going to be monitored and maintained, transportation is going to be managed, wholesaling is going to be managed, and retailing is going to be focused. So these activities are there which are going to be performed into the process of distribution and marketing function. Now, as I talked to you that marketing research is very wide concept and it can be applied to many other areas, because what it do, it basically do the analysis. How it do the analysis? It gathers the data, it records the data, and it is going to analyze the data. These functions are going to be performed, and you can perform these functions into any other process of marketing as well. So marketing research is going to contribute in all the other processes of marketing. Okay, so it is not an independent, it is a supportive uh, process which is going to support the other processes as well. Now, cost and benefit analysis, what we need to do, we need to assess the cost, we need to assess the benefits, and we need to assess the risks, and then we need to compare them. So it is also kind of a marketing research that we are going to gather the data of cost and benefit and risks, and then what we need to do, we need to perform the record that data, and we need to analyze that data. So cost and benefit analysis is going to be performed by the marketing research department. So, my dear students, here we need to discuss that marketing is very important function and it helps us in devising or developing or formulating a strategy. So, what we need to do, we need to formulate and develop strategies, and finally, after the development of those strategies, we are going to implement the strategies, and afterwards, we need to perform the audit. That either the marketing is going to achieve the objectives which they have devices. So, to perform that analysis, we have set some of the questions here who are going to help us out in uh, evaluating the marketing strategies. Like the first one is, are markets segmented effectively? Second is the organization positioned well among competitors? Has the firm's market share been increasing? Are the distribution channels reliable and cost effectively? Is the sales force effective or not? So there are some other questions in the next slide. We're going to see them as well. Then we are going to see that how they are going to help us in evaluation of the marketing strategy. As the next slide is going to have some other questions like, does the firm conduct market research? Are the product quality and customer service good? Are the firm's product and services priced appropriately? Does the firm have effective promotion, advertising, and publicity strategies? So, my dear students, these are the questions who are going to help an organization in performing the marketing strategy audit. Or you can say these questions are kind of a audit checklist, which is going to help us in identifying that either the strategy is going successful or not, or they are going to have some gap between their strategy and to their action, or if there is some gap, so how they can recover those deficiency or discrepancies which are going to be found during the marketing audit. Some other questions which are going to include, are the marketing planning and budget are the marketing planning and budget effective? Do the firm's marketing managers have adequate experience and training that they can perform, or they can implement the strategy, or they can help in devising the strategy? Is the firm's internet presence excellent as compared to the rivals? It means they are using the e-commerce and the e-business activities effectively or not, or they are going to have the relationship with their stakeholders through the electronic sources or not. So that is going to be evaluated over here. So these are the marketing audits. Mean we're going to see the distributor uh, relationship management, and we are going to see the customer relationship management into the internet presence of the company. So these are different phenomena, or these are different audit checklists which can be used for the marketing audit. Now we need to look at the finance and accounting, that how we need to evaluate, how we need to identify the strengths and weakness from the finance and accounting. So in this we need to identify the investment decision, mean the capital budgeting. We need to look at the financing decision, and we need to look at the dividend decisions. So either these are going into the favor of the organization or not. So these are different areas which we need to focus, that how the company is moving on, and how the finance and how much the finance and accounting is contributing either in the strength or the weakness, we need to focus them on onto these things as the strength, or we are viewing them as the weaknesses of the organization, or if they are weaknesses, how we can improve those areas. So in finance and accounting, we need to look at these decisions. And furthermore, let's see on to the next slide. In finance, we need to look at the basic financial ratios. What are the ratios? Like the liquidity ratios, firm's ability to meet its short-term obligation, I mean current ratio, quick ratio. I'm not going to give you the formulas of these. You know about these things. So, but these are going to help us in identifying that what is the position of an organization uh, according to their finances, mean their financial position, their financial strengths, financial weaknesses. Like we have seen one of the example of comparative profile matrix in the last chapter. Into that comparative profile matrix, you have seen that there was one of the key success factor was the finance, and one firm was very uh, is going to have very high rating into the finance, and remaining two firms are going to have very low rating into the finance. So there we have identified that one company is going to have a good financial position, and how we have found out that rating. That rating is going to be identified by using these ratios. Okay, if the ratios are better than the industry, it means the company is going to have a good financial position. Or if they are going to have equal financial uh, ratios to the industry ratios, it means they are at the average. Or if they are going to have the low ratios than to the industry average, it means company have the weak financial position. So in this way, we are going to use the ratio. Further, we can see the leverage ratios, extent of debt financing, that how much debt financing we can have. We are going to find out the uh, debt to total asset, debt to equity, long-term debt to equity, and times interest earned. So these are different leverage ratio through which we are going to get some leverage, and we can find out that either we have taken the debt what we can take according to a financial position, or we are at the margin that if we are in need of some more money, we can take the debt from the banks or some financial institutions. So we can identify such decisions from the leverage ratios. Then the activity ratios, which includes the inventory turnover, uh, the fixed asset turnover, the total asset turnover, accounts receivable turnover, and then the average collection period. So these ratios are going to tell us about the effective use of firms' resources. So we need to look at that how much effectively we are using the firm's resources, and what are the contribution of the firm into uh, firm's resources into the performance of uh, their strategic uh, their strategic performance or their competitive advantage. Then the profitability ratios are going to be discussed, that effectiveness shown by return on sale and investment, mean gross profit margin, operating profit margin, net profit margin, return on total assets. So these are different ratios which are going to tell us about the profitability of an organization, that how much they are going to get the profit onto the sales. Like when we have discussed the Fortune 500 into I think the last semester. So we what we have done, we have divided the total profit by the total sales or the revenue of the firm, and we have found out what is the gross profit margin. So these are kind of different ratios which we can identify, and we can get the comparison of the organization with other companies, direct and indirect competitors. Furthermore, about the profitability ratios, we are going to have return on stockholders' equity, ROE, very important, like return on asset and return on equity. These two ratios are going to tell us about the performance of financial performance of the company, that how much an organization is going to create the return for the stakeholders and for the assets. So then earning per ratio per share is very important ratio, price earning ratio. So effectiveness shown by return on saving investment, the same thing that is going to be contributed, that how much the company is producing the return for the different stakeholders. Then there are some growth ratios which are going to tell us about the firm's ability to maintain economic position, and the ratios which comes under this head, they are the sales, net income, earning per share, and dividend per share. So these ratios are going to tell us about the growth of an organization, and we can see these ratios over the year. So we can compare them over the last 5 years or 10 years. So we get to know that how much company is improving in comparison to the last years. So these are some of the ratios which we have studied, that annual percentage growth in total sale, profits, EPS, and dividend per share. Basically, these are going to be measured through these ratios. Mean total sales is going to be measured by the sales ratio, and growth in profit is going to be measured by the net income ratio, and EPS is going to be measured by the earning per share ratio, and dividend per share is going to be earned by the help of dividend per share ratio. So these ratios are going to help us in identifying such annual growth percentages. Now, which I told you in some of the previous slide, that what we do, we are going to compare the company's ratio with the industry ratios, industry average. Like here, we have compared the current ratio, and we can see that the company current ratio is bit higher than the industry average. They are moving in the same uh, way, but they are going to, if the industry is going to decline, then the company is going to decline. If they are stable, they are stable. But here what happens, the company starts falling to this angle, but the industry starts growing. So here the industry has uh, crossed the company. So we are going down. It means the company is going downward from the industry average. So we need to focus that how we can improve the company's uh, current asset, sorry, current ratios. So then the profit margin ratio is going to be discussed over here. That in from 2006 to 2009, the company is a bit lower. If the industry profit margin is 9%, so the company's profit margin is 2%. So we are going to have 7% deficiency from the industry average. So it means the performance of the company is not good. So we can evaluate the ratios in such a way. And I have the exercise after this chapter, that how easily we can perform these measures, and how we can um, compare the company ratio with the industry ratio. So we are going to evaluate such things. So now for the purpose, as I told you, that you have to choose some of the companies which are listed in the stock market in Pakistan. So I'll provide you the data of those industries and the companies as well. So I will let you know that how you can get the data of the industry, and how you can get the data of company, and how you can compare them. So I'll help you in performing the analysis of your company uh, in terms of financial perspectives. Now, my dear students, there are some questions as we have seen before, that how we can identify that the finance and accounting is going to be a part of a strength or the weakness. So in that way, we need to ask some of the questions from ourselves about your company, and these questions are going to help us in identifying that either the financial position of a company and the accounting department of the company is going to provide some strengths to the company, or they are going to fall into the weakness. Like the first question is, where is the firm financially, where is the firm financially strong or weak as indicated by the financial ratio analysis? So we need to find out either we are in the we are strong or weak into the profitability area, or into the leverage, or into the as some other area like you can say different in liquidity, or in activity ratios, or in market value ratios. So we need to identify that what are the strong areas and what are the weak areas. Question number two is about, can the firm raise needed short-term capital? That is going to dependent that either the company is going to use what up to what extent the debt facility. Can firm raise needed long-term capital through debt or equity? What is the issued capital? What is the authorized capital? These things are going to be identified. Does the firm have sufficient working capital? Are the capital budgeting procedure effective or not? Let's see some of other questions into the next slide. Are dividend payout policies reasonable? Does the firm have good relations with its investors and stockholders? Are the firm financial managers experienced and well trained? Is the firm's debt situation is excellent? So, my dear students, what we need to do here, we are going to identify that either the firm's finance and accounting area is going to provide some strengths to the organization, or they are giving some weaknesses. Even if we are going to have some weaknesses into these areas, these questions, answer to these questions are going to help us out in identify that what are the weaknesses of the company. So we are going to identify those weaknesses and we try to overcome them. Okay, so these questions are very important because their answers are going to help us in improving the organization's weaknesses, and if we are going to have some strengths, so it help us out in improving or to utilizing strengths for the sustainable competitive advantage. Now we need to discuss the next department, the production and operations. This department is going to have multiple processes, or we can say functions, like the process, the capacity. Capacity is about the production capacity, then the inventory, which includes the store and the warehousing, then the workforce, mean the labor, your skilled labor, semi-skilled labor, the quality of the product, quality measures of the product, which are going to be taken in account for the product improvement and the process improvement. So we are going to consider all of these functions. Let's look at some of the things which are going to help out organization in improving their production and operation functions. Let's see the further slide. Implication of various strategies on production and operations. Like if we're going to have low cost provider strategy, we're going to have a high quality provider strategy, we are going to have provide greater customer services, we're going to have be the first to introduce new products, or become highly automated, or minimize layoff. So these all strategies are going to have different implications. As you can see here, that low cost provider is going to have the implication of creates high barrier to entry, create large markets, and require longer production runs and fewer product changes. Then if we are moving towards a high quality provider, it requires more quality assurance efforts, require more expensive equipment, require highly skilled workers and higher wages. Then further provide great customer services, require more service people, service parts and equipment, requires rapid response to customer needs or changes in customer tastes, then require a higher inventory investment. Then if we are talking about the be the first to introduce new products, has higher research and development costs, has high retaining and tooling costs. If we talk about the next part, become highly automated, then requires high capital investment, reduce flexibility, may affect labor relations, make maintenance more crucial. So these are different implications of the strategy of become highly automated. And then if we have the strategy of minimize layoff, serves the skill needs of employees and may develop employee loyalty and help to attract and retain highly skilled employees. So these are the different strategies and their implications onto the production and operations department. So let's move on to the next. So, my dear students, these are the production operations audit questions, as we have seen different audit before. So again, this audit is contributing the same, as it helps us identifying the strengths and weaknesses into the area of production and operations. So the first question is, are supply of material parts, etc., viable and reasonable? Are facilities, equipment, machinery, and offices in good condition? Are inventory control policies and procedures effective or not? So next, are product quality policies and procedures effective? Are facilities, resources, and markets strategically located? Does the firm have technological competencies? So these questions are going to help us identifying the strengths and the weaknesses into the area of the production and operations. So we are going to find out that if there are some weaknesses, so what are the weaknesses, how to improve those weaknesses, and if they are the strengths, so how to use these strengths to formulate the strategy, to implement the strategy, and to evaluate the strategy effectively, and to get the benefit of those strategies for the longer term in the organization. And we are going to get the contribution of the production operation department into those strategies, which means a lot for an organization. Dear students, now we need to discuss that how the research and development department can be uh, a kind of a strength or the weakness for an organization, or going to contribute as their uh, competitive capability in the environment. So something about the R&D budget is that financing as many projects as possible is a good thing, that organizations are going to finance more and more budgets uh, in research and development. Use percent of sale method for the innovation of new goods, mean every organization is going to keep their budget for the research and development by some percentage of their sale, mean they are going to have 4%, 5%, 10% of their revenue for the research and development, or we can say for the innovation of new products and services. Budgeting relative to the competitor, it means some organizations are going to have the budgets in accordance to their competitor. They look that what is the market or industry trend regarding the budgeting of research and development, and by looking at their competitor, they set their budgets of research and development. And now, how many successful new products are needed, it depends. And if you need more products, you need to have more budget. Like we can see that Sony Corporation has many innovations in this universe. Like they have innovated the multimedia sound systems, they have innovated the uh, Walkman, uh, LEDs, LCDs, televisions, and many more things. First digital camera is going to be innovated by Sony. So it means that they are going to have high research and development budgets. Okay, so if you need to be more competitive, you need to have research and development as your strength, then you should uh, put your focus on to providing more budgets to the research and development activities. Now, this is about the audit. Either we are successful in getting the strength uh, uh, through the research and development activities or not. To evaluate this, we need to go for the research and development audit. For this purpose, these are some of the questions like: are the research and development facilities adequate? Uh, if they are not adequate but need to be done. If research and development is outsourced, is it cost effective? Like Sony Corporation, as I talked to you in the previous slide, uh, what they do, they are going to invest into the projects of students in different universities. When some engineering students are going to perform some projects as their term projects or the final degree project, uh, Sony is there to fund their final projects, and if they are successful in innovating some new idea, Sony Corporation gives them opportunity to innovate those products and to market those products from the platform of the Sony. So, but many times it is more costly. Okay, so are the research and development personnel well qualified or not? And or are the research and development resources allocated effectively? Mean they are going to have their return as it has to be. So these are some of the audit questions. Here we have some more questions. Are MIS and computer systems adequate? Mean they are providing up-to-date information and uh, reports for the decision making. Is communication between research and development and other organizational units is effective? Are present products technologically competitive? So if you are going to find out these questions in the favor of the organization, it means your research and development is working good, and you're going to have uh, a strength of research and development. I mean, your organization is innovative. So if your organization is innovative, it means you can have the sustainable competitive advantage. Now, here comes the management information system. First of all, we need to look at the purpose. What is the purpose of management information system? Improve performance of an enterprise by improving the quality of managerial decisions. How MIS is going to help in improving the quality of managerial decisions? My dear students, it do this with the help of up-to-date information, as it is going to provide the up-to-date information, accurate information, on-time information to the managers. They are able to take the quality and prompt decisions, so they are going to be in the favor of the organization. Now, management information system audit, how we are going to evaluate the performance of MIS and how we are going to evaluate that either it is the strength or the weakness of the organization. So these are some of the questions. Do all managers use the information system to make decisions, or there are some managers who are not using it? So you need to identify. Number one. Number two, is there a CIO, mean Chief Information Officer, or Director of Information System position in the firm that creates value for the organization and organization's decisions? Are data updated regularly? It means your organization has up-to-date data or not. Either they are working on to the real-time data, or they are going to have some old historical data onto which they are going to make the decision. Do managers from all functional areas contribute input to the information system? It means the data is more integrated and comprehensive, and it has a contribution from all the functions of the organization. Are there effective passwords for entry into the firm's information system? That is more important for the privacy and security of the data. Uh, Here's some more questions regarding the management information system audit. Like the first question on this slide is the are strategists of a firm familiar with the information system of rival firms? So they are going to make the strategies accordingly, and they are going to make the strategy to make your information system more competitive in the environment in this industry. Then there is the information system user friendly, so all of your people, all of your employees are using your information system effectively and getting a full benefit of that information system. Then, my dear students, do all users understand the comparative advantage that information system can provide? So, if you understand that comparative advantage, you can take more benefit of that comparative advantage. If you're unaware of that comparative advantage, it would be unused, or you can say the temporary comparative advantage. So, you should have the clear understanding of the comparative advantage. Our computer training workshops provided for users. If they are going to be provided, it means users can get more benefit of the information system. And finally, about the management information system audit is the firm's system being improved over the time or not? If that is not going to be improved, that is not going to be going to be maintained, it means it's kind of a legacy system who's going to have some old parameters, old structure, and old decision making patterns. So you need to maintain or improve your information system with the passage of time. Now we need to look at the value chain analysis. What is the value chain analysis? Let's look at this. This is the process whereby a firm determines the cost associated with purchasing raw material, manufacturing products, and marketing products. It means these three activities are going to be considered as the primary activities, and all other activities, for example, the administration, IT, human resource, procurement, and many more activities, they are going to be called the supporting activities. So the supporting activities also include the accounting uh, department, finance department, and many more departments. So all of these other activities, other functions of the business are going to be considered as the secondary activities, and only these three activities are going to be considered as the primary. And there is an information system is going to be established who is going to uh, connect all of these activities with each other and automate their decisions. Uh, it also compares them to the value chain of rival firms. What organization do? They create their value chain and they compare it with the value chain of their competitor firms. So they got to know that either they are going to have some competitive advantage to the value chain, or they are going to have the threat for survival because they are not going to have up-to-date value chain. So it needs to be compared with the value chain of the competitors. While performing the analysis of value chain, we need to analyze it in three areas. The first one is the core competences. We need to identify what competences are there who are going to make an organization to survive into the environment. So the core competences are the competences which are going to make you survive in the market. But distinctive competences are the competences which are going to create the competitive advantage for your firm. So we need to uh, make these distinctive competencies more sustainable, more long term. So we are going to have a long term and sustainable competitive advantage onto the basis of these competencies. And then finally, the benchmarking. Obviously, we are going to benchmark our core competences and distinctive competences with the competitors' core and distinctive competences, and we are going to identify that how much sustainable competitive advantage we are going to have. So, how to transform the value chain activities into the sustained competitive advantage? Let's look at this. We are going to have four steps over here. So, what are these steps? Let's look at this. First one is the value chain activities are identified and assessed. It means we need to identify those primary three activities which we have seen before, and then what we need to do when we are going to identify these activities and we assess those activities. After that, core competencies arise in some activities. We look that in what activities we can arise the core competency, or we can improve our competencies. After that, some core competencies evolve into the distinctive competencies by focusing onto the value chain. So that is another part, that now some of the core competences are moving towards our distinctive competences. And finally, some distinctive competencies yield sustained competitive advantage. So if you are able to yield some sustained competitive advantage, it means your value chain activities are going to be transformed into the competitive advantage. Now, this is the internal factor evaluation. It is same as we have done the external factor evaluation. Now, what you need to do, I'm not going to explain it again. There's just only one difference, that here we are going to have only include we are going to include only the internal factors, as we have included external factors in the external factor evaluation, or EFE matrix. So how to identify the strengths and weaknesses? We have seen the audits of different departments. So you are going to perform these audits, and through these audits you're going to identify the strengths and weaknesses, and onto the those strengths and weakness, and what are the responses of that. Onto those bases you're going to identify their ratings, that how much organization is going to contribute. And the weights for these internal factors are industry wide, mean they are equally applicable for all the competitors who are working in this industry. So now you need to make the IFE matrix for your organization, and you need to submit me as a part of your project, and we'll have a discussion on to it. Thank you very much, my dear students, for listening me.